Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm your other host, Mark.
In each episode, Mark and I will discuss the key topics that impact on football coaching in the foundation and youth development phases. We will share our thoughts, ideas and experiences, and whenever possible include guests so we can get their insights and opinions too. Thanks for listening and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey Scott, how are we doing?
Good, thanks Mark. Yeah, you alright?
Very good. We're back again.
We are indeed. For episode number
33.
33, okay.
Yeah,
and a good one today.
A good one today, yeah.
Our first topic our first time on this topic.
Yes, indeed. And before we're going to get into the topic, already all over.
It's funny with you leading.
I know. I feel a little bit. Already. I feel a little bit kind of nervous actually. I feel a bit out of my comfort zone. But as I always say in coaching, you got to put yourself out your comfort zone and new experiences and things like that.
Yeah.
So, firstly, you got through Storm Kira and Storm Dennis, okay? No issues.
Well, I did. My fences and home didn't. We've now encroached in the neighbours' gardens both sides.
The trampoline stayed in the garden.
The trampoline's just about there, but nothing else is. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's like Wizard of Oz.
And we managed to get a game in on the Saturday, just before the storm come in, right?
Yeah, we got the game in, and actually on that one we did one of our first kind of goes a collaborative training match, but I think it needs a big conversation, doesn't it, around what worked and didn't work. But we did it, and so I'm glad we tried it, and there's lots of learns from that. But we'll pick that up as a topic later on. But we got a game in at least. Yes.
Cool. All right, let's get into the podcast then, and I think I'm delighted to introduce Adie Creamer, who's joining us today, and we're going to have a quite in-depth discussion around goalkeeping, I hope.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
We haven't covered it.
No?
We've wanted to, but we're waiting for you basically.
Okay.
So no pressure.
And this is one dear to your heart, Scott, because you're a goalkeeper as well, right?
By trade. Let me correct this, right? Because standing next to you, you can see I'm definitely not a goalkeeper. Right. I did my cruciate knee ligament like about 12 years ago now, so my football career was way gone anyway for what it was worth before then. But when it went and I missed playing, funnily enough, with my ACL injury, I could still be a goalkeeper because you kind of almost control how much you change direction.
Yeah, you can manage it. Yeah.
Exactly, and I loved it. Obviously, I'm 5'10" if I'm on my toes, so it's
we can judge it by the picture later on.
Yeah, I'll get the stall out. But we play a lot of 5 and 7-a-side, so in those goals I'm all right. Yeah. We actually played down in goals not too far, in one of the goals venues not too far from here. I did about 2 years ago for a friend's team, and the other guys thought I was a pro keeper. I was just on fire. But it's the small goals, Adie. So put me in the big goals, mate.
Terrible in the small goals.
That's a real keeper, you see.
Well, as you can see from me, Adie, I was never a goalkeeper.
Right.
Smallest boy in the year. Funnily enough, I did play centre half though. But anyway, that's another discussion. So I guess let's kick off.
That was on Saturday for the underage, wasn't it?
That was for the underage. Yeah. I still get asked to play.
Manager's cards out.
Let's kick off then. So before we get into the conversation, Adie, I guess in true podcast style, if you can just give us a little brief introduction around your kind of background, what you do, both I guess in terms of goalkeeping and outside.
Yeah, sure. I've been coaching for about 20 years now, so maybe a little bit longer, and it all came about because I suffered a quite significant catastrophic injury really when I was 17. So I actually started as a centre forward in that kind of Tony Cascarino mould in the late 1980s, early 90s. Niall Quinn, that kind of
long ball up,
flick it on. That's pretty much all I could do. And then I realised I wasn't very quick, but I played a lot of Gaelic football from a very young age, and
that's fairly brutal, right?
It's physical.
Yeah,
it's physical, but very highly skilled.
Yes.
I wouldn't play the hurling. The hurling, sticks and ball as hard as a cricket ball. That's very skillful game again, though. But I got into I played a lot of Gaelic football, and I had a slight knee injury at the time, so I ended up playing in goal at the age of 14, 15. But at that time, there was the transition from the back pass rule happened. But a lot of goalkeepers my age couldn't play so much with their feet.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd played as a centre forward up to then, and I could actually play with my feet and use that, and it was so it was quite it was a great time to start playing in goal for me because I progressed quite quickly. So yeah, it was around the age of 17. I had some interest from Nottingham Forest, but within a few days I went in for a tackle and I was out for 2 years and had quite a significant injury. I'd snapped both my cruciate ligaments and severed a main artery in my leg at the time. So
wow.
It was.
Was that playing in goal? Tackle, was that out on the field?
It was a weird story because it was. I was playing for the county in a county FA Cup match, and we were 2-0 down with 20 minutes to go. And the manager knew I played up front before. Centre forward was injured, put me up front. I set one up in my first touch, scored the equaliser in injury time, and the game went to extra time. Went in for the tackle, and then it was. I was out for 2 years and had multiple surgeries. So it was quite, at the time they were talking about amputating the leg and stuff. So it was quite a significant injury. So
puts mine into okay,
listen, no knee injury is insignificant.
Mine hurt a lot. My knee swelled up.
There's some bruising.
Do you know when I had the injury, it didn't actually hurt. It was that kind of your body's response, that shock. It was like just lost all feeling from the waist down. It was just. And it was the following 2 years were very tough in terms of the rehab and the numerous surgeries, the change to your life as well. In terms of, I lost a year of school, had to go back and and finish my A levels and stuff like that. But it then started me on that coaching journey, really.
I'd imagine I imagine it must have been quite mentally difficult as well, right, for those couple of years when you're not playing football.
Yeah, hugely difficult. Yeah,
because a lot of up and downs.
Yeah, because you went from that point where you've got Forest were in the Premier League at the time, and it happened overnight that their interest came, and they there was the contract was put on was there in front of me, and it was like, and then within a few days that day happened, and it was and it was just but I made quite an early choice at the time. I had when I was in hospital there was a kid in the hospital as well, and he'd lost one of his legs to cancer. He was a 14-year-old boy, and he was a 13, 14-year-old boy, but life and soul. And it was kind of put things in perspective, and it was kind of like, do you know what? It's do you know what? Pick yourself up, get on with it, and
it's always worse.
Yeah, 100%. So it was quite. I'm glad I went along. Took that approach quite quickly after the injury, and really. And my first thing, I just wanted to play again. Yeah. So and it was. So I did the rehab over 2 years, and then came back and started playing. I then started university as well, and my coaching career started there as well. I started doing my coaching badges and so on. So that was. I came back. I played non-league football to the age of 27, and then. But then my knee started to go. I dislocated my shoulder as well, so it was. So it was time to stop that. Yeah,
and that was in goal. So when you come back, you played back in goal. Yeah,
absolutely. So I loved it. I loved playing. It was great. But I found my real passion through coaching. And felt like I could really offer something back in terms of the technical and tactical side and so on, but also just the people side to it as well. And could really engage with young people, and that was really important to me.
When did you realise that, Eddie? Because that seems to be a bigger thing now in the world of coaching, that we focus more away from the X's and O's and look at the actual other side of the coin. But it sounds like you might have been quite intuitive about it a bit earlier than most, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was. It was quite. I spent a few summers in America, doing some camps out there, and just found a real buzz about. I had a real buzz about it first of all. And I think I brought that enthusiasm to a lot of them, and I kind of realised quite early on that was going to be my calling, and it was and it was just. It was more about it. It wasn't just looking at the elite. It was looking at everything and everyone. It was like just
loving the game.
Yeah, absolutely, and trying to pass that on to other people. But it progressed from there. In 2005, I went to Watford as the academy goalkeeping coach there. So I worked with all age groups. It was really nice as well. It was at that time Watford were in the Championship and they were favourites to be relegated. And Adie Creamer came in and
all around.
Yeah, so I was working with the academy, and it was like, but Sunday mornings we're going for the academy games, and Ben Foster and Richard Lee were doing their warm down for from the Saturday. So I might end up helping out with some service there, but then they'd have the kids. They'd come and do the warm up with the kids, which was an amazing experience
right?
for the boys.
Brilliant,
It was phenomenal. So it was a real family environment there. So I was there part-time. So I worked only part-time because I'm a full-time teacher as well. And I was there for 12 years, but then in 2015, 2016, I got a call from a guy who I did my A license with, a guy called Gary White, and he was manager of the Guam national team at the time. And then he 10 years before, he remembered me from the A license, and we had a good rapport. And he was like, "Look, I need a goalkeeping coach. Can you get out to Hong Kong next week for some World Cup? For some friendlies?" So I went out for 2 games against Hong Kong and Singapore, where normally they would have been beaten quite significantly. We lost 1-0 and drew 2-2. So then he appointed me as his goalkeeping coach for World Cup qualifiers.
Brilliant.
In Asia, which
national
was
team coach.
yeah. So ended up doing 8 World Cup qualifiers with him.
Yeah.
Travelled all around, went to Iran, Qatar, Turkmenistan. It's just India, and Guam, beautiful place, and it was just an incredible experience.
So what would you do, Eddie? Would you get called out when they got the players together? You'd go and join them for their...
So I'd fly out for 2 weeks for the international break.
Wow.
I'd take unpaid leave at work at college and school, and I'd fly out there for the 2 weeks and be part of it. And it was, I think if I'd looked at Guam's results prior to that, I might not have taken the job, because the last time they played in World Cup qualifiers, they lost 16-0 and 19-0.
Right, okay.
And we got drawn against Iran, who were the number 1 team in Asia and went to the World Cup, and India, who were significantly above us, Turkmenistan and Oman. And we won our first 2 games. We were top of the table for the summer, and it was an incredible experience. And it was just and then to get to travel to those places, to be part of that culture with those players. The gaffer as well was great. He was just someone to learn off and to admire in that way. So it was a really, really, it's just been a really varied coaching experience.
That is pretty varied. Yeah. So just tell me, was that the first time that you'd coached a kind of adults team, or you'd been involved in coaching adults teams before?
It was in terms of competitive.
Yeah.
It was. It was the first time I'd worked with as kind of an assistant coach.
I would imagine if you go to different national teams, their footballing philosophy can be different, I guess, But is goalkeeping, is that different in the sense that goalkeepers are goalkeepers? Not it's almost, you could be coaching any national team, but the kind of the way the goalkeeper is pretty much...
Yeah, you still, I think, I mean, from that limited experience I've got of that, it's, it's...
you weren't shocked
I treated
it.
I think Guam's an American territory, and we took, the gaffer recruited really well in terms of he went outside of the island and he kind of used the granddad rule over and got players from the States. Predominantly we were made up of college players and sort of semi-pro players. We had a couple of professionals. That was it, and really we should have, everyone thought we were going to be the whipping boys of it, and we...
Well, sometimes that can
make
really
well
and unite, can't it?
And it was just the manager just had he just had us really well structured, had a real unity about the players, and that was what I tried to bring into the goalkeeping unit. You got 3 goalkeepers, 1 can play, but it's important that they all train well and they all push each other to get the best performance from your number 1. And it was it was a great experience. Great.
I can see what a smile on your face there. It was a good experience.
I loved it.
So that was, I guess, we got to that 2016. That kind of finished, was it?
2018, 2017, late 2017.
Yeah.
So that finished then, and then I did 2 years with back to Gaelic football. So I did some coaching with the London senior Gaelic football team for 2 years with the goalkeeper. goalkeepers there, and then I just do my own sort of private coaching now. I'm really sort of from a variety of age groups, all the way from 6 up to lads in it. I've got still lads in there. There's a couple of lads in their 20s now, and they're still coming to my sessions, and it's it's a real family unit. It's
well, that's
really
how we heard
important.
about you, Adie. We know you for our local club, but everyone speaks so highly about you and the sessions you're doing, the coaching you're doing, and stuff like that. Only a few good things are so highly recommended, and that's why when we wanted to do the goalkeeping topic, it was like, let's get you on to have a chat about stuff, because it's nice to get someone that lives and breathes it and has got the experience and stuff, but also works with a whole wide range of age groups and is in it for the right reasons, and hopefully we can share some of your views and ideas about stuff with the listeners and dig a bit deeper into it.
Yeah,
thank you for the kind words.
That's a
We don't get any money, so it's worth it.
That's all right.
You got a drink, right? You got
That's
a
all
drink.
right.
You
That's
got a
fine.
drink. Okay, so I think we kind of open where we go with the discussion on goalkeeping. I think there's a good starting place is really around the role of the goalkeeper's changed a lot over the last few years, or it's probably a longer period than that, right?
Yeah.
And even I think you mentioned the back pass rule changing. I remember that changing when I used to go and watch QPR play.
Have gone back and watched games?
You're like, free kick ref.
Did you watch I think that it was the European final with Peter Schmeichel in Denmark. And you go back and you watch it, and it just killed the game. It was just like it was horrific.
You forget, don't you? But it was really bad.
And I think it's probably fair to say that maybe goalkeepers weren't quite as good with their feet back then, and now over time that rule's going to help that change.
Absolutely.
And now all the invention or the way Guardiola likes to play and those kind of coaches, it's completely changed the approach for goalkeepers. So does it, in terms of the way you approach the training now, how do you think about your kind of coaching?
One thing that hasn't changed, your primary job is to keep the ball out of the net. So whichever way you can, do it, and we'll talk about the techniques and stuff afterwards. But if you do your job first, then that's the most important thing. And that's whether from a kid, 6, 7 years old, all the way up to, you don't have to be technically amazing so long as you're effective in your job. I think that's the most important thing first of all. But however, though, I think everything else has changed. I always saw goalkeeping as you almost had like a generational shift. Like from I grew up in that sort of Bruce Grobbelaar, Neville Southall. Then you had the Pete Schmeichel era. And they're quite big chunks, and I think, but you look now to that modern day goalkeeper. I think it evolves almost yearly, or there's something new. There's something new that comes in, and I think if you look at shot stopping now. Shot stopping is so different to the way when I played, and it's because the balls move so much more. Pitches are better. So you got players who have got better technical ability and can manipulate the ball far better. So you have to train your goalkeepers in a huge array of techniques and to be able to deal with things and to be effective in those techniques. And so that's changed. Goalkeepers now, I think, have to be significantly more proactive. I was lucky enough when I played non-league football, and Neville Southall was actually the director of football at the club I was at. I played quite well in this game, and I'd made a really good save, and he came in and he talked me through it, and he kind of gave me a bit of a rollicking. Well, I made a good save, and then we went on the attack and we missed, and they countered and they came back, and I had to make another really good save, and I was quite pleased with myself at the time. And he was like, "No, it's your fault." Like he was like, "You made your save, and then you kind of like you're like patting yourself on the back while we go up and attack, and then the attacks broke down with their goalkeeper making a save, and they've counter-attacked." But he was like, "But you should have, your role as soon as you make that save is to organise your defenders,
so you can't get another shot.
To be proactive. If your defenders had been higher and squeezed up the pitch,
you wouldn't have a shot save.
It might not have had that." And it was so that was quite an eye opener for me in terms of goalkeepers being more proactive rather than reactive to situations.
I guess ideally what you want from a goalkeeper is to not have anything to do at all, right?
Yeah,
That's the job, and the more you
absolutely,
keep them as that, and you've got a great position from behind the defensive line.
Yeah.
To manipulate that if you can.
Yeah.
You can't always control what they do, but you should be trying your best to.
Yeah.
And I guess that was his point, maybe. But
it's not. Yeah, it wasn't reacting to the situation when they got the ball. That was when I reacted, and I was like, right, got to get up and get across, and it was like that was almost too late, and it was like.
Yeah. Keepers want to make the saves. You don't want you like. You don't want
But
the defenders
I quite like making the saves, so I was like, why give me a bit of credit for that? Yeah, it was like distribution's changed massively.
Yeah.
And as you said, like playing with the feet, you look at the ability of Edison now and his ability to be comfortable with the ball at his feet, Ter Stegen and so on. And it's like get it out and then play out. And
well, I think the interesting thing about about Edison, clearly City brought in Bravo, I think it's Bravo beforehand, and clearly he can play football, right? He's good with his feet, but actually he probably wasn't the best goalkeeper out there, even though they paid a lot of money for him, and they very quickly decided actually he's not probably what we want. We need to go out and get someone who can play football but can actually make saves as well.
I think the physical demands are so different to playing in the continent and to playing here. And it's like you look at Edison's he's a brute.
He's
a fella, and he's like, and I think you look at the way Guardiola plays, and they play really high because they've got that trust in the goalkeeper to be able to play. And I thought last season he was phenomenal, and he really made a mark on the Premiership in terms of his distribution, the way he played with his feet, and set a standard for a lot of others to sort of move on. I think as well, we said about being proactive, so you've got that kind of aggressive position in the start positions. You have to be a lot higher. You have to be constantly engaged. You have to be able to sweep up. I look back to the cup final last year, and Edison's start position against Watford. I know he won the game comfortably, but he made a really important save early in the game from his start position being really high. And there was another one where he came out, he made a really good block to the edge of the area, but there was also he just came out and cleared things up 10 yards outside his area, and it really set the platform for them to go on and absolutely destroy Watford.
They get one early when you never quite know what's happening.
And people kind of forget about that. And I think as well, I think probably one of the biggest things is the improved athleticism now. I think that's so key. And if you look at the structure of the goalkeepers now, how different they are to that. That Peter Schmeichel was that kind of block. It was quite square, rectangular. Whereas you look at De Gea and Couture,
agile.
Long, lean. Limbs flying everywhere. So
I'm sure we're getting more into actual what a coaching session might look for a goalkeeper. But has that influenced how you coach then with these changes that have gone over the last 5, 10, 15 years? Do you
definitely
reflect on your coaching and have to evolve that accordingly?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's the goalkeeping department through the FA with Martin Thomas, Tim Dittmer, and so on have been really proactive in getting that message across the goalkeeping coaches that you do have to continually evolve. You do have to change your your practices and your structures. Even from where where do you do your practices from? Where do you do your shooting from? Those ones where we're striking from the edge of the area and in and around goalkeepers and unopposed. Is that realistic? No. I think we looked at a couple of graphics from World Cups and stuff, and you look at 75% of goals are scored, first time finishes from within 10, 12 yards. So what should you be working on? And I think it's that constant, it's that looking at where those things are happening and adapting your coaching to that. You have to know the goalkeepers you're coaching as well. I think it's important. Are you coaching for that elite level, or are you coaching for grassroots level? There's different objectives there and different things you want to get out of your session for those different goalkeepers, and so all of that informs your decision making in terms of what you include in your session, and get the flow of it.
How do you kind of think about structuring your session now then, in terms of, I guess, traditional goalkeeping versus goalkeeper using their feet? Do you still kind of focus more on traditional stuff, or how do you kind of mix it in?
I think you have to mix it in. You have to have that real balance of them being a player. I think it was Arsene Wenger who said something like, you have to have the shot stopping ability of Peter Schmeichel and the first touch of Thierry Henry, and the passing ability of, I don't know, Pirlo. As a goalkeeper now, that's the expectation. So you have to you have to be a complete all-rounder and a complete player. So your sessions have to incorporate all of those elements. You've got your. I think there's always a place for the repetition and the basic techniques and the core techniques, and they're the real fundamentals and the base of what you work off. But then you've got to have that. You can't work in isolation with that. You have to incorporate them as part of the team and make sure that those skills are practiced as much, if not more.
Adie, it feels, and this is just like from our limited exposure to coaching and goalkeeper coaching, it feels like there has been a change with regards to outfield players and how a lot of coaches set up their coaching sessions with the players and make it a bit more games based. I can't say everyone does the same thing, but I think it feels more like we realise that just technical stuff on its own probably doesn't transfer as well as doing some technical stuff with lots of game based stuff and everything else as well. And I'm not trying to get down the unopposed argument because but it's certainly where we were coaching 5 years ago, and there's a lot of unopposed stuff, lots of cone stuff, lots of nice lines. We've realised ourselves actually there's a place for that, but also lots of place for actual real game stuff. When I've seen, I think you'll agree with this, what you've seen as well, some of the goalkeeper coaching that we see in different academies and elsewhere, it seems very technical still. It seems like actually the outfield stuff's kind of moved on a little bit, but a lot of the coaching that we see with the goalkeepers, it's very technical. They'll do an hour or so of unopposed technical shot stopping and everything else, and then they'll go and join a team for some games and get involved in that. Is that a fair reflection of how is goalkeeping keeping up with outfield coaching, generally speaking, would you say, or is there still a mismatch there?
I think the message is there. I think the message is there, particularly from the FA and from those guys that I was speaking about. I think it's how you work with your other coaches. It's that communication. It's that. I think it's the outfield players, the outfield coaches having an appreciation of the role of the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper coach, realising what their value, what their experience is, and drawing the best out of them. Rather than I've seen it. I've heard of experiences where the goalkeeping coach is told, right, go away, work with them for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and bring them back in, and they're mine. And they're not part of the goalkeeping coach isn't really part of the dialogue and the outfield session.
It's two separate.
Where it has to be, for us to move forward, it has to be an open dialogue between them. I think it's,
and that's what it feels like we're watching.
Key.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I think even to the point where the goalkeeper coach is with the goalkeepers, and literally the one pitch over there will shout, "Oh, we need two goalkeepers." So they send two goalkeepers over there, and that'll be it. And then the goalkeeper coach will carry on doing a bit more, and then he'd disperse the rest of the keepers, and then it looks like his job's done a little bit.
And where the outfield players might work a bit on a theme, whatever thing that might be, the goalkeepers aren't involved in that at all. They just turn out to basically just save shots.
I think it's having that dialogue, and I think the more competitive and the more elite you go, I think it's, I don't know, sometimes I think it's the head coach it's a bit of an ego thing. It's their team, the result falls on them, not on the goalkeeping coach. And it's so they're in charge of that, and I think it's important to have that dialogue and that discussion. When I went out to Guam and I worked with Gary White, we had, one of the first discussions we had was like, I'm not just coming here to do warm-ups in 20 minutes. It's like, to be part of the decision making in terms of how we structure a session, how we incorporate the goalkeeper into that, and so on. And he was, and fair play to him. He did. And he went with me. He trusted me, and it was like I trusted him. And that was an important. That was an important lesson for me, I think. But then I've heard, I've got quite limited experience in terms of, working with teams as such. Being in charge of an overall team. But I've heard stories where it's not the case. It's just right. You go and do that for 20 minutes, and then put them in there, and you go stand behind the goal, and you're not part of that discussion. And I think that needs to open up.
I know at the very top level, and obviously it's a bit different at the very, very top level, but you can blatantly see that the keepers are part of the whole program. You can see, can't you? They're part of the team, and like you say, you couldn't play like the way that City players or Liverpool play and stuff if he didn't have them involved in the session. So there's no doubt that's part of it all.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether that's filtered down. I'm not trying to compare foundation phase under 8s with the Premier League. But you think, well, actually, why would the approach be that much different? If if you keep as important for Man United, it's important surely if you're the local grassroots team,
of course.
because they shouldn't feel like they're just the different person stuck in goal. And back to the old Grobbelaar days when it was the unique character, that was kind of the eccentric guy that would just go in there. You think, well, actually, it's different now.
It's
you're
not.
Part of
You've got.
it's.
I think now you can't have that. I think you have to be a balanced character. You have to be that. You look at, someone said to me, someone we were talking, I can't remember who it was with, and they were saying about how many geeks there are in goalkeeping. They're real students of the game, and they're quite balanced and quite quiet. That whole thing of getting in people's faces and shouting is like, it's kind of like
it's gone. It's
moved on from that. And it's, I think that conversation is quite relevant. But I know you guys have done your outfield coaching as well, badges as well. Do you think there was enough goalkeeping taught to you in terms of your badges?
It's funny because there was pretty much none, but because of I had my knee, my less serious knee injury. In the practicals, I'd go and goal quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I loved it, Matt, because actually I found I learnt loads by being goalkeeper practice on the level 1s, 2s, and the youth awards, because you could see it all, you could hear the coach. I felt like I wasn't not being closely as involved. You could pick up stuff, so there wasn't hardly any covered. But I quite enjoyed it from that perspective of things. But there isn't. No.
I think that's an important thing. I think a lot of the team, even like the grassroots clubs that I've gone into and so on. It's very much like the coach will go, actually, I don't know anything about goalkeeping, that's your job. Off you go. And it's like, well, why don't you know anything about goalkeeping? It's an integral part of your team. You've got to, and that's from under 8s up all the way through.
Absolutely.
And I think that message needs to be communicated more. I think.
But I think
how can you plant the good seeds and embrace that position if you're not doing the good things from the outset from these young kids that enjoy being goalkeepers? You want to make it the best as possible, don't you? So part of that is in getting them involved. Surely, I think that the more you segregate them as how you sort the keeper out and we'll worry about everyone else, you're less likely to get players that really want to do that. Sorry, Mark, I'll cut you off.
No. It was just along the similar lines. I look at our club and I don't know anyone that's actually gone through the level 1 goalkeeping board. Like the FA mandate, I think standard charter clubs that you've got to have. Everyone's got to be a level 1 coach to be on the grass. But there's nothing around being a level 1 goalkeeping coach, for example. And there's just no focus. And when we look at all our goalkeepers, all our coaches, and who's got what kind of badges, there's no goalkeeping.
They'd all say that they don't know nothing about goalkeeping. They don't know. That's not their thing, is it? And it's they don't even kind of focus on it that way.
I was just one question, just on that. Do you think then the FA kind of miss a trick a little bit in terms of those awards, that they're very separate? Do you think they should be more integrated, or do you think it makes sense to be the way they're set up? I
definitely think there needs to be. It's a long time since I've done my badges, and when I went through my badges, you had to get onto the goalkeeping B license. You had to have an outfield B license. It's all so it's almost like you're doubling up and everything. It's like, but then the outfield coaches, to get on the outfield, they don't have to do a goalkeeping license. So I think there is room for more goalkeeper education.
It's a good indication of where maybe the game has kind of almost past the training, the coaching, because like you'd think it would be built into your level 1s, 2s, and youth mods and your AFBs, and maybe your AFB. I'm sure it's in there a bit more than the young ones. But I think there's no reason why you shouldn't have some goalkeeping in there, at least around that. And I'm not saying you use keepers in practice, so the keepers are in there, but it's not something that's really spoken about with regards to how you coach keepers. And how you even just incorporate them in sessions, which is absolutely what will come on, I'm sure, at some point.
All right, let's just move on a little bit then, Eddie. So I guess we coach in the foundation phase. We have a lot of discussions around goalkeeping in the foundation phase. Scott's, I think, fair to say, and I don't like to say it, but I think he's got some very good views on how goalkeepers should be brought into the foundation phase. But I guess what we're interested to know really is what your kind of views on Should all players in the foundation phase be goalkeepers? What kind of age do you think you should start specialising in that position?
I think it should be encouraged to give to all players an understanding of the role, the pressures. It's how it's done, I think, is the most important thing. And I think creative, imaginative coaches will bring that enthusiasm through a variety of different ways. I think you look at warm-ups. Warm-ups don't have to be like running in a line and all this. It can be like multi-sport games. Get them playing a bit of Gaelic football where they're using hands and throw a rugby ball around. Different things. I think it's a fundamental skill, throwing and catching. I think it's why not expose them to it. So I do think it's important that it should be encouraged. I think what has to, I think coaches need to kind of use their common sense and see where, if kids really love it, then encourage it. But if it's really sort of having a detrimental effect on them, then maybe take them out from it. It's not, why.
I think it comes
you want them
down
to love
to
the game, and
yes.
it's.
Well, we've had parents say to us. I mean, this is going back to the older age group now, but not this, our younger ones, but for our older ones. I remember parents saying to us, "My boy's not a goalkeeper. He can't play in goal. He's a striker."
Yeah.
And my point was like, "You're probably right. Okay, he's 7, but okay, maybe that's the case. But how can you be a really, really good striker if you've played a goal before? If you don't know how a goalkeeper thinks and feels, and stuff like that, hey, can you really be the best you can be?
Yeah.
So don't worry about being a goalkeeper. Just worry about learning what a goalkeeper does, so you can be a better striker.
Yeah, and you can expose them.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And you'll get a better feel for it. But with the younger ages, what we try to do is we have this thing where we say, look. Number one rule is it is never the goalkeeper's fault. If you get up throwing your net, it's not your fault. Outfield players try to stop the shots.
Yep.
Any save is a bonus. When you're 7, 8, 9 years old, any save is a bonus.
You look at the way like De Gea uses his feet
to
save the ball.
Yeah.
It's not textbook technique. It's effective.
It's his way of doing it, isn't
absolutely.
it? And we can't. I'm certainly not capable of coaching goalkeepers to any decent standard. I can do the basics, but just confidence and enjoying it and recognising the agility and all the stuff. But also dealing with the pressure being the goalkeeper, because it's all that stuff.
It's an individual
resilience,
position,
right? It's resilience.
And when it
Absolutely.
goes through your legs like it will do, or through your hands, you get no problem from us as coaches. One little bit you want to get, but you've got to deal with that still. Your teammates have got to be encouraging and stuff, and it just creates so many other things where I think we'll see really good under-8s teams have a goalkeeper, fixed goalkeeper. They've got their outfield players and they've got their fixed goalkeeper, and the keepers are pretty good to be fair, even that age group.
They are,
And I know you get lots of benefits out of it, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. The other 7 or 8 kids aren't getting a chance. The one kid may not end up being a goalkeeper because they might be as tall as me and you, Mark, and not end up being 6 foot. Also, body impact for 10 years, just playing in goal, just that week in, week out, nothing else. Footballing skills, outfield are going to go. Certainly, I'm going to progress like they might.
Well, that's what I was going to say as well. It works both ways. I think I've had kids come to me and they just want to do goalkeeping coaching, and that's it. Well, those goalkeepers, if they are your designated goalkeeper, you're playing them every week in goal. In training, make them play outfield. They have to have that understanding. They develop the touch and the passing ability and so on. It's communicating that message both ways. I think it's so.
And I think
important.
that's what you see, right? The teams that we play that have got fixed goalkeepers, you see actually. With their feet, they're not as technically good as their feet. They might be playing. They might be playing in a strong team, and they're in goal because they're brave and they make good saves and things. But actually, when the ball's at their feet, they're not technically as good as a lot of the boys that are, or girls that are playing. And it's you can clearly see that even at 7 and 8 years old.
We'll play 4 quarters in 10 minutes because it's still so 40 minutes, and each boy will do 10 minutes in goal every game. That's how they rotate around. But because they're not goalkeepers, they just do a job in goal. We call them outfield players with gloves on, which we stole from somebody else, but we've got that.
I like that.
But what they do is when they make a save, they have to drop the ball and play. So but we're the only team that does it. The only team. And we're not great at it. Don't get me wrong. We make mistakes, but the boys naturally instinct is drop the play and then make a pass. But it's funny. We'll go and play against academy teams, and they won't do that. We're a little grassroots team. We're not even that great. But the idea of just play football. That's the biggest strength is your feet. 'Cause you're a football player. So you made the save, fantastic. Drop it and now play. You commit to play and play a pass. Well, that's even better because we've got an advantage then, and you're involved. But even when the game's going on, and again, they don't do it brilliantly, but we try to encourage them. If you want to go back to the keeper, go back to the keeper and keep be
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
for it with your feet, not your hands, with your feet,
Yeah.
and we can play again. We're not Man City by any stretch of imagination, but just the idea of putting the good concepts in place. I think when you get a keeper that's just a goalkeeper, and how great they may be, they're basically just a shot saver, aren't they?
Yes.
You know, they're just a shot saver, and
But they should never just be a goalkeeper. They're a player.
Yeah.
You know, that's.
Yeah, but I wonder how much that comes down to the training sessions where when they go to train, they probably are just doing goalkeeper stuff.
Yeah.
Probably not doing much of the outfield stuff. And that's, I don't know, so it's probably a bit unfair to say, but it feels that way.
I think it feels that
you
way.
see
Yeah.
how they
Yeah.
are and stuff.
Yeah.
Even my own club, I see a lot of the keepers in the teams that kind of just they do keep training for half an hour and then get run into just a game.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Well, I think you have some goalkeepers that actually won't even train with a grassroots team. They might train just with a specialist goalkeeper on a Saturday morning instead.
Yeah.
So, which is a bit of a shame.
Well, I mean, I always encourage that. You know, I do some sessions, and I always encourage. You know, if players say, "Oh, I might need to do a week there with my team," I'm like, "Great, you need to be part of that." There's no point just doing this in isolation. You need to be part of that, collective that you're playing with on a Sunday. So.
Yeah. Should we talk about coaching sessions?
Yes. Let's dive into it. Yeah.
Adie, on I guess age-wise, for us being really selfish, you know, if you were coaching, say, under 8s, 9s, 10s, 11s or so, and you had a group of 10, 12 kids, you know, that included maybe they all play goal, or one or two definitely do. If you were us, how would you approach a training session that would get the outfield players playing, but also include the goalkeepers?
Absolutely, yeah. You can't work in isolation. I think it's important that you can do. There is a time and a place for those core skills and those fundamentals, and you can do your reps and with quality, so long as you're not overdoing it. So you lose that. You get that bit of fatigue in there.
Yeah.
In terms of the sessions themselves, first and foremost, make them fun.
Yeah.
Make them challenging.
So how would you if you've got a goalkeeper specialist training session? How do you kind of make it fun for the goalkeeper? Competition. Yeah.
Competition. Boys and girls love competition. It's not. It's make it. But also as well, I think you have to bring an energy to it, and it's. Someone said to me when I first started teaching and coaching, they said your enthusiasm is contagious, but so's a lack of it.
Yeah.
So you've got to bring that. You've got to bring that love to. You've got to bring that love to the session, which is really, and that you believe in it, and you really want to. That you're enjoying it as well. 100%. I think it's you have to have that, and it's all about knowing who your players are, knowing what their limitations are, knowing what makes them tick.
Is there any games or stuff that you could say that you do that you kind of go-to ones that are kind of nice, fun games that maybe or practice agility, saves?
What for goalkeepers? Yeah, stuff like there's loads of stuff like goalie wars. We do loads of that. We'll have
just 2 goals and 2
2 goals, but then we'll have goalkeepers at either end, and if they save and it goes round, they get the ball back. But what we do is we'll have a number of players in ready to hit rebounds and stuff like that, and if they score, they go and goal, and it's that whole competition edge. It's anything like that, just recreated. Having that little bit of chaos is all right. It doesn't. You don't have to have that. You don't have to have that. Those perfect little drills.
That's what we often say. That right.
Make it a little bit scruffy. Make it a little bit, and just challenge them. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I just think when you're in goal, the saving bit's the easiest bit in some ways. It's the nonsense stuff that goes around in goal, isn't it? It's the coach. It's busy in the area, and the balls are coming across the goal.
It's that constant being proactive, and that's how things are changing. I think the game's so much quicker. And it's only going to keep getting quicker and more technical, and it's so it's just don't if you're coaching, don't be afraid to try something. So long as it recreates pictures that they'll get in their games.
Would you keep the goalkeeper involved for most of the session in with the other players? I mean, you said there'd be obviously elements where you might do technical stuff that's goalkeeping solely, but would you try and keep the keeper involved as much with the other players?
I think I mean, like I say, you can have your there's nothing stopping your goalkeeping coach taking the warm up for the team and having it as those kind of multi-sport skills and throwing, catching, dribbling. It's all those things.
Yeah.
I think that's
that physical stuff's good for the actual player as well.
yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely.
It's like,
the
it hasn't got-
dexterity, the movement, and so on. It's
especially in the foundation phase.
yeah, developing their motor skills. Running,
Yeah.
catching, skipping. All of those
And the
things.
kids love it, don't they? They
Yeah.
love fitness.
Yeah.
And put a bit of competition in there.
Job done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
game on.
And if we create like I guess the situation where you're a grassroots coach, you're on your own, so you're not a specialised goalkeeper coach, and you've got an under nines team or whatever the age they are. What would you kind of recommend? And you've got a player that wants to go and goal, and your philosophy is to have a permanent goalkeeper. How would you kind of then incorporate them into the session? So if you've got little practices or little games going on.
Do you know? I think it's what you often see is they'll go. You'll have the coach might have an objective of the session might be to we're going to do some crossing and finishing. Great. Well, is that it, or can you go a dual objective? Right, we're going to. These players, you're going to be your objective is going to be to improve crossing and finishing. Goalkeepers, we're looking at your dealing with crosses and reaction saves.
Yeah.
So you straight away you make them feel part of it.
Yeah.
You make them go. You're not just there for us to smash the ball out. Right. So then it's up to them. I think then it's up to the coach. They can talk about how the ball's crossed in or the way you strike with the foot. Can you talk to the goalkeeper as well about his start position? Can you talk to him about assessing the flight of the ball? Can you talk to him about what decisions do you have to make? Are you going to come or are you going to stay? Can you talk to him about what are you going to do? What's your communication going to be? Are you going to go keepers or are you going to go away? Are you going to make what's your next decision? Are you going to catch, punch, parry? Okay, or are you going to retreat to your line and protect the goal? What technique are you going to use to make that save if you have to make it? What's your recovery position if you get something on the ball? It's having the if you're an outfield coach. We're all outfield coaches. There shouldn't really be that distinction. You've got if you're an outfield coach, you should also be a goalkeeping coach. You need to. So if you can kind of
Marry those bits
up, and I think you're much more effective. And I think
that seems where it's heading, though. I think I don't feel like it's there, but I mean, it feels like obviously again at the highest level you can see it in bits, but that's not filtering down as much, and certainly not in the younger age groups. And it should be. I just feel like it should be like it's all one. And we have an obligation as coaches to make sure we can give good advice to the outfield players and the goalkeepers.
If you've got two coaches there, rather than both working on it might not have the expertise in the goalkeeping and defending. It's like, but have one driving that side of the session where they're doing the crossing and the finishing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's you have to get your goalkeeper. Go back to when I was training and playing. It was like you were just you were there. Yeah. Because you had to be there.
Yeah.
You weren't told.
Yeah.
Like this is.
You weren't included.
And I think it's valuing that position and straight away if someone turned around to me and said, "Do you know what? Right, they're doing this, but your objective is to get better at doing this," then straight away you've got that motivation to go,
I'm here for reasons well.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Because then that taps into my ego going, I want to show that I'm the best.
Yeah. And it's funny because you see goalkeepers that they're so selfless. They just accept the fact I'm just here to help the team almost, rather than it's not about me. But it does feel like they're just there. They just turn up, put their gloves on, stand there, do wonderful things. They don't even get any praise for it.
They might go off to the corner for 10 minutes and do some catching and throwing kind of stuff. Then they come back and then they just in goal
do their thing and off they go again.
Yeah. But I think that's a great point. Is that you make they give them a purpose, right, and give them individual challenges. I think that's just a great way of thinking about it.
I think going down to the grassroots level, I think that's what's missing. That's it's all focused on because they don't have an understanding of the goalkeeping role, and it's like it doesn't take
other things to focus on as well, isn't it? To be fair to coaches, you've got so many things to get through. It's almost like because you're not as comfortable with it, maybe it's not their priority. You want actually just let's try and stop the shots by doing anything on the outfield stuff first, and it's a bonus if I keep them as a save. And actually, you can get so much more out of it if you approach it differently.
Yeah.
But worst case, you could even just say to the goalkeeper, if you got a little mini match going on, you could say, right, your focus is your distribution. Can you distribute that ball well today?
Can you get the ball back 4 times and can you play out?
Yeah.
Is there if you're working with really young coaches, is there anything you say is young goalkeepers as a coach? Is there anything you'd say is a really must do with them to get them in a space where they feel comfortable to be in goal?
I think make him feel loved, make him feel like mistakes are fine. You know, it's the way we learn. It's I don't count how many goals go in. It's go right. Well, you know, it's always just asking that question. And, you know, what would you do next time if that happened? You know, make him feel really valued. Best bit of advice I ever got as a parent, teacher, or coach. I was speaking to Peter Moore, the cricket coach. We did a session with him, and we had coffee, and we were talking about how he coached his son. I coached my son at the time. My son was doing my head in at the time. He was like 13, 14. You know, and it was kind of like, well, you know, and I'd always, you know, I was quite trying to find a balance of being a coach but also being a parent. And it was, but he said something that changed me as a parent, as a teacher, as a coach. And he said, when there's pressure on, take it off. When there's no pressure on, slam it on. You know, and it just, he goes, you always walk a tightrope.
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing bit of insight and it had quite a huge impact on me in all those, you know, facets of my life. Yeah, my relationship with my son was better because of it. You know,
work at when to
ease
off a little bit, and then when to
absolutely.
And we had Richard Short from Non-Perfect Dad. He talks a lot about parent, coach, things like that. He's excellent, and you know, it's almost like an art, isn't it? In just trying to get that balance right. You want the best for your kids, but you just got
it always fine tuning.
It takes time. It takes time, though, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Even when you get that advice, it still takes you time to
still make a mess of it every now and again. It's not, you know, it's you misread things, but so long as you can constantly reflect and you can go back and you can go, you know, how am I going to make that person better? How can I help? It's, you know, I think that's for those coaches working with those young players. I think that's so key. And as I said, just make those, you know, be creative and be realistic.
If you're a young goalkeeper, what would you recommend that they work on to give them the best chance of being successful? What I know it could be everything there, but is it agility, is it decision making, is it their feet? What would you say if you were 30, 14-year-old?
Again, it's just everything. It's
work on their strengths, work on their weaknesses.
Yeah, I think it's always finding that challenge and going, you know, what am I good at? How can I develop those strengths? Okay, but where do I need to improve? How am I going to improve that area? What do I need to do? And I think it's different for everybody, and it's just constantly finding that challenge for them is so important. Seeing what makes them tick, you know. And I think it's having that open dialogue with them. You know, it's not that kind of dictatorial, like you have to do this. It's like, you know, I love it when a kid asks me a question. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and then they can go, right, we're doing it.
Right? Challenging, right? Yeah.
Because we do it, and it challenges me as a coach, and it's like, you know, and that's important as well.
And I guess generally, what age do you think a goalkeeper should start specialising? Are you of the view, like, for example, 8 or 9 is too young to specialise as a goalkeeper? Maybe you don't because you're a goalkeeper, sure. But what?
I don't think there's any specific age. I think, you know, I've got. Yeah, I think of a kid that I coached last week, and he's 8 years old, and he just has a love for it. He's like, he can't wait to get to training, and he's why shouldn't we coach them if they really want to do it? It's like get them doing it. But then it's having that. It's been open to other things, and as a coach, you know, it's my advice is multi-sports is key. I think it's, you know, I go back to my background. Gaelic football had a huge impact on me playing in goal because I could, you know, I had that aerial dominance, you know, where I could come and take crosses and I could catch all day long. I loved it. It was like, you know, and that was something that made me stand out. Getting them to try different things and play basketball. You know, I look at my son's 18 now. He did Irish dancing until he was 12. You know, footwork.
Yeah,
you know, and physically demanding. You know, he's played Gaelic football, he played hurling, he played basketball. You know, and it's, you know, but he's had that special. He's been around me coaching. You know, he's probably from the age of 6, and he's like, do you know, I wish I had that. You know, being exposed to that. I didn't get coached till I was almost an adult, really. If those opportunities are there, but there's a balance to it, in terms of being open-minded to different sports and different users. I think that's really, really important.
It's something goalkeeping is because you probably do need to be at a certain physical stature, don't you? I mean, you don't see many keepers that are probably below 5'10". I wouldn't.
Depends where you're playing.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah.
So like, there's not many 6'5", 6'4", 6'5" lads, or 6 foot women.
Yeah.
It's I've got goalkeepers that I work with that are 5'8" and they're 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
But they love playing in goal and they're goalkeepers. They train hard and you can't just exclude because of that.
Yeah. But I guess what I meant, you're dead right. I think, but when you're 8, 9, 10 years old, you're not sure how you're going to grow physically.
Yeah.
So being good at everything just means you can, or practicing everything at least, means you've got your options still, haven't you? It's like, well, if you just throw your eggs in the goalkeeping basket, at 8 years old, and you do end up being 5'8",
and you're going elite,
you're going to hit a ceiling. Absolutely. And you might have been a cracking player as well. So
absolutely.
It's just, I think, try and encourage, even the enthusiastic. Like you've got the kids that don't want to go and goal, the same ones that only want to go and go. It's like, well, let's just do a bit of both. Let's just do it. It might hasn't worked 50, but let's just do 10% at least of the other one, just so you keep.
I think you need a bit of balance, right? That's what you're looking, a bit balanced.
And I think it all comes back to developing that all-round individual, and you're not just developing a player, because listen, such a tiny percentage can be players, and it's a good mate of mine put it as like, we worked in the academy together, and he was like, you got less than a 1% chance of being, these are the boys in the academy, you got less than a 1% chance of being a professional footballer, you got 100% chance of being a decent fella and with a right work ethic, and if you can do that through the experiences you give to the kids, then
worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you got any tips or advice for us then? So as a couple of dads doing their best with the teams they've
amateurs
got.
Is the word you're looking for.
I was going to say hacks, but if we wanted to improve our ability to coach our players in goal, what would you suggest to us? I recognise we could do the level 1 and 2 goalkeeping courses, which is on the agenda. But what other easy wins are there for dads out there and mums out there that want to just get a bit of advice or guidance about how they can be better support their goalkeepers?
Well, in terms of coaches or parents now?
Coaches and parents.
As coaches, I think there's that. Listen, we're in a digital era now. There's so much out there. There's so everything's so accessible now in terms of educating ourselves. It just takes that little bit of time and that little bit of effort. I just think that's important to have we need to constantly keep broadening our knowledge and have that understanding. So I think that's there's so many resources like that. It's things like this. Go and speak to someone that does it. Ask their opinion. You might not agree with it. But then that opens that dialogue, and that's and it opens that.
What about observations? Going to see coaches.
100%.
So you could find a club.
I still do it. It's still do it. And it's like, do you know what? I say my son's coaching now. He's 18, and I like the way he coaches. I take little things from him. It's not. It's about leaving your egos. I think the big thing about, especially as a goalkeeping coach, it's not about. It shouldn't be about the coach's ego at all. It has to be centered on the goalkeeper. And boosting their self-esteem. It's about them. It's not about me as an individual. And if that takes me learning off my 18-year-old son, a little something that he might have picked up from another goalkeeping coach somewhere else. I said I've done this for 20 odd years, but I haven't had an original idea in my life. All I've done is I've just plagiarised and just nicked things of people, and then adapted it to my style and my. And I think
we can raise it, can't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very much so.
If it's there, why try to reinvent it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, you make it right for your environment, don't you? And you as a person and for the environment you're in, you try and just tweak and change the stuff that you've got to make it work for you. I actually think, do you know what? I actually think the best thing is, as you said, going to observe sessions, watching other coaches, because I think sometimes you get drawn in a little bit looking at things that are like some of the coaching stuff that's on YouTube or on the internet, and I think sometimes some of these exercises, practices look great. I've seen some of the goalkeeper ones where they're using a tennis ball, throwing it, and the goalkeeper's made a great save to his right. He's up again very quickly. He's got a different ball over here, or they've got a surface which they've
kicks it in and it bounces all over. And they look brilliant. They look superb. But I think sometimes
can be a bit gimmicky at times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. And I think any coaching going to actually observe, trying to see what the outcomes the coach is trying to get out of it. And
I think it's also like going out and looking at different sports.
Yeah.
You know, I started teaching rugby 3 years ago at school, and that's opened my eyes to a whole wealth of games. Handball, you know, there's you look at Schmeichel, his that was where his background was, and it's I went to the goalkeeping conference last year, and Bobby White, who's England, he's something to do with England handball, technical. I can't remember his. Excuse me for not knowing his title, but he delivered a fascinating session in terms of, with foundation goalkeepers, incorporating handball techniques into goalkeeping. It was great to watch. It was so insightful, and it just opens your eyes to whole different.
Yeah. Funny enough, that's one of the sessions you do on a Wednesday night, right? It's not handball, but it's a similar kind of thing, right? It's a mix between handball, basketball.
We do a futsal session with little ones, just display basically, not from futsal ball, but we'll do a bit of we'll do some wresting sometimes. The crash mats around, we'll do handball.
They love it, right?
They just basketball, we do dodgeball, just anything.
Brilliant.
And they just play. We're just playing different things, but and kids are anything, right?
Yeah, get them active.
Get
them active, get them working, and get them having fun.
Back to the point, just quickly. We've got finished done over an hour already,
yes.
so
sorry.
no, not at all. It's us. So it's always the same. It flies by, doesn't it? But please say if this is wrong, but we do look online and find lots of stuff, but it seems to be lots of shot-saving stuff. Mm-hmm. And I always think, I know not important at all, but you said it yourself. There's in here you've got distribution. You've got proactiveness, decision making. There's so much other stuff that keepers have to do.
Yeah.
Is there a danger that sometimes when we're coaching goalkeepers, and I mean like us coach goalkeepers, that we just think about shots stopping and not the other stuff as well? And is it important to make sure we remember the other stuff? Because a lot of the goals I see don't come. The shot stopping is the easy bit. It's the other stuff that gets the keepers mistakes happen.
That's what makes people. It's the. I think I get an assessment on a goalkeeper and someone goes, he's a really good shot stopper, and I'm like, well, that's his job.
Yeah.
It's about all those other things. It's about that. How does he play with his feet? How does he, can we put him under pressure where he's got two people closing him down, and what can he do with it? Can he make the right decision whether to go just to kick it out, or can he find someone? So it's really important to put him in all those different scenarios, and I think there is. Goalkeepers love doing all the shot stopping bits, and they're the fun bits. But you've got to expose them to all the elements. You've got to expose them to. You've got to blocking.
Exactly.
Blocking from the ball 2 yards out, being hit at you, and getting your shape right, or what's the different types of crosses from deep, or is it a cutback and so on. I think it's
the anticipation. And
it can always end with a shot. It's not. Often it can always end. You can have different outcomes. In your session. It's just how you plan it. I think it's as long as it's done creatively and it has a purpose. I think it's go for it.
I think just maybe a final kind of question, or maybe it's more of a statement actually. We still, one of the things, one of my pet hates, and I think probably for Scott as well, you still see in under 8s, under 9s, under 10s football, the goalkeeper, he just gets the ball and he just kicks it. He just kicks it long. And you can see the coach. That's what he's been told to do. Parents are on the side
quick
shouting, "Kick it!" Kick it. Exactly.
You
still see that. How can coaches, or how can maybe it's not even coaches, but how can we help change that kind of view of goalkeeping in terms of just kicking it? And maybe this is more for parents.
I think it's opening dialogue. Why? If you're playing a team on a Sunday, why don't you? If you're doing under 8s, under 9s, you can contact them before and go, right, listen, how about we work on this?
Great idea. Great idea.
It's like, do you have like a line where they drop off to so we can play out? We'll try that for half a game. It's opening that dialogue between teams. It has to come away from the result and winning trophies at under 9s, under 10s, because we're never going to move on, because we're going to have them. We've always had that. It's like, right, put the big kid up front, So that was me when I was a kid. I had a little lad next to me who the goalkeeper used to launch out to me, and it's like that flick it on. It was like
Quinn and
success,
Phillips.
Loads of success. It didn't make me a much better player.
No, exactly.
And a bit of a sore neck, but it was. I think it's opening that dialogue. It's educating parents.
I think that's the point. Is that it's understanding what the benefits are for doing it the other way. It may cost you goals, but you're going to get so much more learning out of it and better players out of it in the longer term. And that's the bit I think that sometimes the short term just get the goal rather than the long term. Right, we can be better as players. We put the ball on the floor.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you know that a year, 2 years down the line, that goalkeeper that's just kicking it along all the time,
the pitch gets bigger.
It's going to get harder for them.
And
right?
also,
and
I
they're
hear
not going to
like
develop.
grassroots games, and you're getting running up cricket scores, and it's like, so if it's so uneven, all right, move the result over, and then change something as teams, so both teams get something out of it, rather than one team getting absolutely battered, the goalkeeper getting.
And no one wins that. No one gets anything out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Adie, I think we've covered a lot of stuff there. I'm gonna give you one quick story which I've kept back, which
involve QPR.
No, it doesn't involve QPR. It involves my youngest son actually. So he played in it's like a development centre game yesterday, and Scott, your son, was playing as well, and we were both there watching the game. And after the game, on the way back in the car, as usual, I asked, how do you think it went today? What did you do well? What did you enjoy? Kind of stuff. And the first thing he says, he goes, "Oh, Dad, did you see that save I made with my feet?" So I just dived out my feet, and I thought, I did actually see that. I was really impressed with that. He went in goal for like 10 minutes. And it wasn't like about scoring a goal. It was actually, did you see that save I made? I was like, wow, I don't know where that's come from. And that is honestly a true story.
It's a different experience. It's a different experience, and it's and I think that comes back to your question about do we give them all a go at that foundation age? It's until you put them in a situation and give them a chance to experience something, scoring a goal and saving a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're both, and it's that was, I played as a centre forward. I got far more enjoyment out of coming out and making a massive block with my chest, that ball cannoning off me. It was like, it might be a bit sore at the time, but then the rush from it after it, it was like, so give them those experiences. That's great.
He very quickly counted it. But did you see that great skill I done in the middle? Did you see the goal I scored? So he moved on quickly.
You can still do those great skills as goalkeepers.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Anyway, listen, Adie, it's been an absolute privilege to have you on today. I can categorically say this is probably one of my most favourite podcasts. It's much better than just sitting here talking to Scott. It's been great. It's something totally different. We haven't spoken about goalkeeping in the past, and as Scott said at the beginning, we've been trying to find someone, and we've been waiting for you really to get on. So it's been great talking to you. If anyone wants to get in contact, how's the best way? You don't need to give your mobile number out, but in any Twitter or any details?
I'm on Twitter, so I think it's under GK80. Instagram as well, got ADGK1, ADIE GK1.
We'll put them all on the Twitter feed, so they've got all that stuff.
Feel free to contact me, and any questions, that would be great. But it's been a real pleasure talking to you guys, and I wish you the best of luck with it. You send out an important message, I think.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Adie.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
And then Scott's going to wrap up.
I forget the last bit myself. Yeah. All right. So yes, everyone, thank you for listening. Again, we have some great feedback from the last episode we did with Richard Shorter from Non-Perfect Dad. We'll do some thank yous and everything else on the next one, and we'll talk about the game we had on Saturday. The training match we did on Saturday.
Definitely.
On the next episode, you're going to do your under-11s one, aren't
you?
We
are. Under pressure, right?
Yeah. Maybe we could do that as part of that one.
Yes.
If you want to reach us, Twitter is @SoccerCoachCast. The email is info@thesoccercoachingpodcast.com, and the website is www.soccercoachingpodcast.com. If you can, please leave a review, say what you think about the episode, and share it to other people that might be interested in listening to it. So brilliant. Yeah, all good.
Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Thank you.